Hello there, and welcome to Play the Game with Steve. Villains Beyond, Episode 13, Drang. In this video, we're going to take a look at Drang, his different stats on his different stages. We're going to take a look at his unique setups and mechanics. We're also going to take a look at his signature cards and how they'll interact with our heroes. But most importantly, we're going to take a look at some of the modular sets that we can include to amplify the thematics, the difficulty, or just the overall sensation of playing Drang. All this and more on this episode of Villains Beyond, Drang. Drang is a Badoon on all three stages. He also has a force response on all three of his stages. After Drang schemes, you resolve the Badoon ship's charge-up ability. On stage 2, it is the same thing after he schemes, but on stage 3, it changes up to after Drang activates. That means when he attacks and when he schemes, we resolve the Badoon ship charge-up ability. All right, so on stage 1, Drang is a scheme of 1 and attack of 2 with 13 hit points per player. On stage 2, he's a scheme of 2, an attack of 3. And 14 hit points per player. He has a when reveal. If Drang's spear is in play, you give Drang a face down boost card. Otherwise, you search the encounter deck and the discard pile for Drang's spear and you reveal it. Shuffle the encounter deck. And then on stage 3, he is a 3 scheme, 3 attack with 18 hit points per player. He has a when revealed. You'll discard the top 4 cards of the encounter deck. And each time a minion is discarded this way, you put it into play engaged with the player who is engaged with the fewest minions. So as you can see, Drang is a general and he is bringing a lot of friends. All right, now let's take a look at that main scheme. The main scheme is called Terrestrial Invasion. There is 2 main schemes. The first one has a setup ability to put the Badoon ship environment and the Milano support into play. And then you flip this. It is called Terrestrial Invasion. It starts at 2 per player. And for the first time, we see it go up by 2 per player, which really accelerates the main scheme. It has a cap of 8 per player. And if that pops, something happens. There is a force response. After resolving step 1 of the villain phase, you resolve the Badoon ship charge-up ability. And as a first player action, you can exhaust the Milano to remove 3 threat from this scheme. All right, so it goes up fast, but at least you get a card, the Milano, that helps you out. If ever this pops, we are going to protect the planets. It is a scheme 2A. When revealed, you resolve the Badoon ship's charge-up ability. We're going to see that in a second. Protect the planet starts at 4 per player, so that's halfway. Again, maximum of 8 per player, goes up by 2 per player. First player action, again, you can exhaust the Milano to choose to either remove 3 threat from the scheme or deal 3 damage to a minion. And if this stage is completed, the players will lose the game. And the same force response after resolving step 1 of the villain phase, we resolve the Badoon ship charge-up ability. So as you can see, they really put the emphasis on this is a fight. If you go to alter ego, you might lose out of nowhere because it goes really, really fast. All right, let's take a look at that Badoon ship. Badoon ship is an environment card, which means you cannot remove that. You can't interact with it. It is there to stay. It is aerial and vehicle traded. It has the charge up special. You place 1 barrage counter here. Then if there are 4 or more barrage counters here, you deal 2 indirect damage to each player. And then you remove all the barrage counters from here. So it's going to deal you damage every 4 activations. You're taking an extra 2 indirect damage. So be prepared for the beatdowns. Now let's take a look at those signature cards. The first one is Drang's Spear. And that is the one where we go search on stage 2. It gives him a +1 attack. Drang gains Stalwart, so he cannot be stunned or confused. But as a hero action, you can spend a mental and double physical to get rid of that. In Drang's crew, there are 2 Badoon engineers. All right, these are Badoon traded, a scheme of 2 and attack of 1 with 3 hit points. They have a force response. After Badoon engineer engages you or activates against you, you resolve the Badoon ship charge up ability. And as a boost icon, you do resolve the Badoon ship's charge up ability. And then Mr. Drang has only 4 other cards, and these are side schemes. Well, the first one we'll go is Bombardment. After resolving the step 1 of the villain phase, resolve the Badoon ship's charge up ability. So that means you're putting 2 charge counters per turn. It comes in at 3 per player, but the first player can use the Milano to remove 3 threat from the scheme. So in solo player, it is not that bad. Then we have the Blockade, which has Hinder 2. Starts at 2, so Hinder 2, that means if you're 1 player, it's going to come in with 4, and then 6, 8, and all the way up to 10 in a 4-player game. First player action, exhaust the Milano and remove 3 threat from the scheme, and also has a Crisis icon. Then we have Spatial Positioning. Again, starts at 3 per player, has the boost icon, so every boost card has a +1 icon. First player action, exhaust the Milano and remove 3 threat from this scheme. Well, again, very easy in solo play. And then finally, we have the Oppressive Armada, which has Hinder 3, and comes in at 1 per player, and has an extra encounter card. And again, the first player action to reuse the Milano to remove 3 threat from this scheme. So this is very, very small as a villain deck. Now, me, as a preference, I do prefer having more villain cards because I think that makes the villain feel more thematic. It feels like he has a little bit more to say. But in this scenario, we have just a few cards, but that means we can play around with a lot of things. So let's go take a look right now at some of the modular sets that we can include to have some fun with Drang. All right, one of the ways that we can alter the scenario now, of course, the designers intended this to feel like a space battle. So with the Milano Ship Command and the other modulars from Ship Command, makes a very spacey, feely battle. Now, if you want to change it up, I would suggest to keep the Milano for this scenario and just remove the other cards from Ship Command. And then you can add a variety of cards. So now it gives you at least 2 modulars to play with without removing the help of the Milano. So that being said, what would I add in exchange? If you're just looking to keep it thematic, just remove the Rogue Vessel with the Badoon Headhunter modular set. Well, this will give you not only the Badoon Headhunter, which is a pretty nasty minion, you'll have his henchman and a couple of other cards that all say Surge on it. So this is going to make it a little bit more difficult for your heroes, and then it's going to make it still feel kind of like spacey. So that's if only if you want to enter the 1 modular set. I would replace the Ship Command with this one just to make it a little bit tougher. All right, so I'm going to make suggestions a little bit differently this time. Obviously, because if you like the thematics, you can always just keep the Milano and the spaceship, but and just add maybe one of the 3 modulars that are very minion heavy from the Guardians Most Wanted box. So the Space Pirates, the Menagerie, or the Kree Militants. But if you want to change it up, here's a few combinations. That means we're keeping just the Milano, only the Milano from the Ship Command modular set, and everything else we're changing. We're changing both modular sets. So this is, for me, in thematics. Why not add 2 sets of Sentinels? So Zero Tolerance and the Sentinels modular sets if you're playing with an X-Men character versus Drang. I think it makes it very, very thematic. Like Drang is recruiting the Sentinels to help him to destroy the mutants. Again, if you're playing with the mutants again, why not try Brotherhood and the Acolytes? Now, I've tried this a couple days ago, and oh my gosh, especially when you get the stage 3 Drang, if he drops 2 or 3 of the Acolytes, it is brutal because they all activate because of that teamwork ability. So that is craziness. All right, if you're playing a Spider-Man villain, why not try the Iron Man's Sinister 6, or Iron Spider's Sinister 6, and the Sinister Assault modular set. So again, makes it very thematic that Drang is the general and just recruiting an army of your main nemesis bad guys. Super, super, super fun. And then finally, check out the temporal minions with the the Anachronauts. This is another great combination for Drang. There's a lot of boost effects. So when he activates, there's a lot of naughty effects. So these are my thematic recommendations. And I have one more, but this one kind of goes off the grid a little bit. If you are playing, if you want to play against Hydra, like adding Drang with the Hydra Patrol, the Hydra Assault, and the Hydra Legion, this makes for a very, very brutal battle, especially in multiplayer, because these Hydras are just coming out. Most of them have guard. They have extra attacks. If you don't defend, you lose your supports. It's really, really harsh. So this is another great one here thematically if you're just going for Drang, leader of the armies. Here's a few suggestions if you want Drang to be an army of one. That means there's only his 2 Badoon engineers in his deck, and then you're focusing on making Drang as powerful as possible. So here's a few combinations that you might want to add or try individually or together. I really suggest together. It makes it even more thematic. The Brothers Grimm has all these really cool attachments that just go onto the villain. So, and they have a lot of boost icons too. So the Brothers Grimm, and add the Brothers Grimm with the Osborne tech, and you have yourself a nasty little Drang that is going to be really powerful. If you want something a little bit less challenging, go for the Weapons Master with the Experimental Weapons deck as the modulars. You're going to see that it's just a little bit less of a challenge. So if you wanted something challenging, go for the Osborne Tech and Brothers Grimm. And then if you want something just to try to ease your way into it, try the Experimental Weapons and the Weapons Master. Again, a very cool combination. And this focuses Drang on being like an ultimate fighter, kind of like Dragon Ball Z style, where he's just like the man. All right, so those are my suggestions for enhancing the challenge. And then finally, if you want to just go for thematics, like going with the scenario theme, and then just for the lulz, adding the scenarios like Under Attack, State of Emergency, and City in Chaos are just going to add to that feel of like the city is like being devastated by this Drang army. There's not a lot of minions. So it's going to be pretty brutal, especially with citywide emergency, because there'll only be the 2 engineers in his deck. And again, this is if you remove the Milano ship command modular, and then you just add 2 or 3 of these, and then you can really see the difference, you know, of like, oh, okay, thematically and everything. So this is for the lulz. So this for me, guys, was a little bit more challenging because of Drang doesn't have a lot of stuff in his hero kit. So I really focused on playing off of, you know, the modulars and how they would affect the story of how you're playing this scenario. All right, so here are some of the best cards I would include in my aspects when I'm fighting against Drang. So there's a lot of minions if you're going to be playing Drang normally. So Lion Weight is a great card for 1, and when the minion pops out at you, poof, you get to deal 3 damage to you. And if you're playing against the Badoon, like the Badoon Grunt there, that's a 2/2 that just comes out. Well, you still get that encounter card, but at least you're getting rid of that minion as soon as he comes in. The other one, there's a couple of really big minions with the 3 attack and overkill. So Moondragon here is not a card I recommend often, but I think he's pretty fun to have 1 minion just kill another minion, and just having those minions just kind of work for you instead of against you. For me, I think it's very good. Then you have the under surveillance if you're playing Injustice. Now the reason why we want this is because that main scheme only goes up to 8. So if we can make it go up to 12 in solo play, it's really, really useful. So Under Surveillance, big shout out to that. In leadership, finally, yes, I recommend something in leadership. It's not always happening, but because there's a lot of minions in his kit, Better Ray Bill is definitely an investment that you want to do. Better Ray Bill has that attack and defeats a minion. You remove 2 threat from the main scheme. So this does 2 things, hurts minions and removes threat. So you definitely want to keep this buddy alive. And then finally, in basics, definitely add an endurance, because those ship counters, those charge up abilities, and that 2 indirect damage is really gonna pile up fast, especially in a multiplayer game. All right, guys, that's it for that. So if you enjoy that, give it a like, a thumbs up. Let me know what you think in the comments, if there's any of those modulars that you've tried before in combinations and played. So on that note, keep on playing Marvel Champions. And remember, just have some fun and play the game. I'll catch you for the next one.